Welcome to everybody. If you'd like to put in the chat where you're zooming in from, we would love to know. Okay, we have a lot of folks. We got Stamford, Connecticut, and Palo Alto, Vermont, Wisconsin, Seattle, Austin, Ohio. Welcome to everyone. Ottawa, a lot of Vermont folks here. Washington, Toronto, Florida, North Carolina, Switzerland, Menlo Park, Yuma, Nova Scotia, California, Georgia, Kentucky, all right, Honolulu, San Francisco, New Jersey, Minnesota, Colorado, New Hampshire. Welcome to everyone. We're so happy to have you. And Rosanna from the middle of the night. All right. We will get started in just another minute or two. And yes, this meeting has live transcription and it is being recorded. And Brooklyn, all right. Maryland. Madison, Wisconsin. Okay, thank you for the note, Jennifer. Okay, we'll wait another minute and then we will get started. Okay, San Juan, Puerto Rico. Very nice. Okay, well, welcome everyone. So nice to be sitting here with you today. I just want to let everyone know that we are recording this session today. So with that, we're going to get started. My name's Rhyena Halpern, and 1 second. Okay. My name is Rhyena Halpern, and this is Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation's 5 Invitation Study Group or Pop-Up Book Club on the 5 Invitations, Discovering What Death Can Teach Us About Living Fully by Frank Ostaseski. The intent of this group is to unpack how facing death and dying allows us to live more fully. It's my 3rd time reading the book, and I just love it. It really is an onion with each layer. Each time I read it, I go deeper and deeper, and it really is a wonderful meditation. So I'm glad that people let us know where you're zooming in from. We have people all over the United States and in Canada and Switzerland, a few places all over the world. So I'm wondering, we did this program a year ago through Mission Hospice, and I'm just wondering if anybody attended it. If you did, please put that in the chat so we can acknowledge you. This year, the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation is hosting this book study club. And I'm really happy about that. And I think Elisabeth Kübler-Ross would be too. When I think of her, I think of deep listening, deep connections, deep loving mindfulness. And I believe she would have loved Frank's book. The Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization inspired by her work. And as you know, Dr. Elisabeth Kübler-Ross was a psychiatrist, humanitarian, activist, and hospice volunteer. The foundation was begun 1 year after her death by her son, Ken Ross. And over the course of the last 15 years, the foundation chapters have been created on 4 continents that continue her mission to develop hospice, palliative care, and grief support. In 2019, most of Kubler-Ross's archives were donated to Stanford University, which will create a digital library to make her papers available to the public. It's the spirit of embracing all of life, which includes death, that we further the mission and vision of the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation. Essential to her work was her deeply held belief that unconditional love is the most healing medicine of all. And in that spirit, we offer this class. So I wanted to just take one moment and let you know if this class is offered for free. And we're going to put in the chat, if you're so moved to donate, we will put in the chat a link for that. I want to just take one moment and introduce myself to you. Again, my name's Rhyena Halpern. I'm an End of Life Doula, a hospice volunteer, a death and dying educator. So I companion people at the end of their lives. I support families and work with people who also want to take time and space to intentionally think about and plan for their deaths, whether it's identifying final wishes, creating legacy gifts, doing a life review, or planning alternative funeral and burial options. I welcome you to reach out to me if you're interested. This death work fills my heart and spirit with purpose. It is my spiritual path. I'm also a wellness coach working with folks 55 and older on making the transition to the 3rd act of our lives, post-child rearing, post-retirement, focusing on new dreams and directions. And I'm happy to talk with anyone further about these things. So I've had many people in my life die over many years, starting in college. I lost someone very dear to me to rape and murder, another to car crash, many to AIDS, cancer, old age. And I had a very amazing experience when my mom died. I had moved her out here to be near me in the Bay Area. And we had 4 years together before she died. And I watched her slowly get ready for death. And ultimately, she was able, without really trying to, just by letting herself, to embrace death. And she reached for it and she died very peacefully with a lot of light and love and really some amazing humor. So I was very grateful for the gift of her readiness, how we got to say goodbye over and over, and how she let herself go towards death. She died very peacefully, 5 years and 2 hours to the day after my sister died of metastasized breast cancer. And what really changed me was what happened afterwards. And I had no idea what would come during the mourning, the period of grief. And that was that my experience of it was just so, there was just so much love and gratitude. So with that, I've really turned towards this work on death and dying. And I want this space that we're sharing today and the next 5 sessions to be a safe space for all of us, a welcoming and open space. I'm not an expert. I'm the facilitator of this, always studying and learning. So I welcome learning with you and from you. Today, I'd like to introduce Susan Barber, who is the Foundation's Community Education Director. She does an amazing job. I've been able to work with her for several years, and I've learned so much from her. Susan, do you want to say a few words?
I just want to welcome everybody. I want to thank you, Rye, for taking this on for the next 5 sessions. I'm so grateful. We did do this last year, Rye. I was at Mission Hospice, where I know many of you from, and it's just wonderful to be here. I'm so grateful to you that you're doing this, and I'm so grateful to everybody who's registered and emailed, and we had to keep expanding the number of registration spots because so many people wanted to join us, that I just feel so incredibly grateful that there are people willing to engage in these conversations, willing to turn towards death, not as a crazy thing that happens to other people and a big mistake, but as a natural part of our lives that we can become more and more familiar with by sharing these kinds of experiences. So taking a deep bow and being in the background here today to support Rye and to support you all. Thanks so much. And at the end, I will post for anybody interested in donating to the foundation. I'll do that at the very end. And I will also post an event that's happening next week, part of our author series. So thank you, Rye.
Good, thank you. And I hope the audio is okay and everybody is with me so far on Zoom. Couple things I just wanted to say briefly about our format for today. So each session, we have 5 sessions planned. Each session, we're going to be focusing on one invitation. And we're asking that you come to each session having read the invitation for that session. So today, for instance, is the first invitation. We'll also show a clip during each session of Frank Ostaseski, the author of the 5 invitations, talking about that session's invitation. We'll have a short silent meditation together. We will also have breakout groups that will be approximately 4 people or so to be able to go deeply into the invitation. And we use Frank's questions that he has developed in his study guide for the 5 invitations. And we will put that in the chat for you and also show them to you on my screen. So each session is 2 weeks apart, 90 minutes long. And if possible, we may have a guest for our 6th possible session. We have no firm plans for that now, but I just wanted to put that out there as a possibility. So with that, how's that sound to everybody? We good so far? If you have any burning questions, you can go ahead and put that into the chat, and Susan or I will get to that. So I wanted to start with just with some excerpts on the first chapter. The invitations are really quite stunning in their simplicity and beauty. And I just embrace some of these excerpts. So these are directly Frank's writing. And I'm just going to read a few. And you can sit, eyes open or closed, and just kind of get into this first invitation. And the invitation is, don't wait. And I just wanted to say this invitation is chapters 1 through 4 in the book, if you haven't read it yet. So here we go. Suppose we stopped compartmentalizing death, cutting it off from life. Imagine if we regarded dying as a final stage of growth that held an unprecedented opportunity for transformation. Could we turn toward death like a master teacher and ask, how then shall I live? Whatever we have done with our lives makes us what we are when we die. And everything, absolutely everything, counts. When we embrace impermanence, a certain grace enters our lives. We can treasure experiences, we can feel deeply, all without clinging. Impermanence is the life of all things. Why wait until we are dying to be free of struggle? Coming together inevitably means parting. Everything will come apart. This is true of our bodies, our relationships, all of life. So don't wait. Everything we need is right in front of us. Impermanence is the door to possibility. Embracing it is where true freedom lies. Don't wait is an encouragement to step fully into life. Don't miss this moment waiting for the next one to arrive. Don't wait to act on what is most important. Don't get stuck in the hope for a better past or future. Be present. The last few excerpts I'm going to read are from chapter 4, which Frank really devotes to forgiveness. And I appreciate how much he ties in forgiveness with this whole notion of don't wait. Forgiveness is critical for 2 reasons. It heals us by allowing us to set down old pain. It helps us open up. It helps open us to love. In order to be free, we have to forgive. Freedom not of ultimate enlightenment, but freedom from the indictments, recriminations, judgments that cause us so much suffering. The refusal to forgive is a way we resist life. We can be very loyal to our suffering. When we cling tightly to our past, we hold on to not just the memories, but also the tension and the emotional states that go along with them. Forgiveness has the power to overcome what divides us. It melts the armor of fear and resentment around our hearts. So I hope that was meaningful for folks and just kind of was a refresher on the don't wait invitation. So as I said in the introduction, we have a video clip about Frank talking about this invitation, and I am going to share that with you now. It's about 10 minutes long, and we ask that we're going to keep folks muted during this, and we ask that folks aren't chatting during this because sometimes it comes up on the screen. So we don't want that to happen. So we're going to just turn off the muting, the chatting function, and keep folks muted if you don't mind. So with that, we will share this 10-minute clip.
Dying is inevitable and intimate. And as the video mentioned, ordinary people like you and I, people like the folks in these photos, they find a way to meet the unbearable, the unimaginable in remarkable ways, actually. This isn't a fairy tale or some happy ending story, it's a transformation of tragedy. And they discover this discovery happens regularly in people, They find something that allows them to be larger than the small separate self they've taken themselves to be. Now you might say too late. And I would agree, it's too late. Too late to do that work then. But here's the thing. If that possibility for transformation exists at the time of dying, then it exists now. And we don't have to wait until the time of our dying to learn the lessons it has to teach. So a few years ago, several now, as a way of honoring, actually, the lessons that I learned from being with people at the bedside, we developed these 5 invitations, and they were really guides for
We're gonna just hope this buffers and you'll be able to hear it momentarily. So please hang in there.
they find something that allows them to be larger than the small separate self they've taken themselves to be. Now you might say too late. And I would agree, it's too late. Too late to do that work then. But here's the thing. If that possibility for transformation exists at the time of dying, then it exists now. And we don't have to wait until the time of our dying to learn the lessons it has to teach. So a few years ago, several now, as a way of honoring, actually, the lessons that I learned from being with people at the bedside, we developed these 5 invitations, and they were really guides for how to take care of folks as they were dying. And they've served me well for many years now. But it turns out that they have a relevance for the rest of us in living a
I'm sorry that for some reason the video played perfectly before, but of course right now it is not playing perfectly. So I'm going to try once again, and Susan will let me know if it is working.
meaningful and useful life. You know, an invitation is a request. Actually, if I invite you to my house or to my wedding, it's a request for you to show up. And these invitations are a request for you to show up for your life. Yeah. So the first invitation is, don't wait. Don't wait. Waiting is full of expectation. Waiting for the next moment to arrive, we miss this one. Dying folks taught me that. Don't wait. I was washing the back of one of our patients one day, like this, in the hospital in our palliative care unit. And as I was washing his back, he turned over his shoulder to me and he said, "I never thought it was going to be like this." And I said, "What?" And he said,
Right, it's stuck there.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna see, I could probably offer it through mine. If
Yeah.
I'm gonna try
You
that,
wanna
tell me,
try that?
I can't see on your screen if you can tell me where we are in terms of minutes, what minute you were at there, so I can set this up so we can see it.
nightly visits, nightly, and then, I'll say a few words.
If you can just tell me how far into the video.
I don't have,
Just
try
put,
22 minutes.
okay, then I'm gonna just share this. So sorry, folks.
Embracing the truth
Here, I'm gonna
that
stop.
all things
right
inevitably.
there. Let's try this.
Not to wait in order to begin living our lives in a way that's meaningful and useful,
1
in
second.
a manner that's deeply engaged. We stop wasting our time on meaningless activities. We understand that death is always with us, integral to life itself. And everything is constantly changing. Nothing is permanent. And this idea can both frighten us and inspire us. Mostly we imagine death will come later. Later. Like later. No need to analyze. It was really scary. Significant events and conversation. Significant. And just so folks in these photos.
Hey, Rye, would you like me to screen share?
Yeah.
Okay. Go. And I will hope that we have better luck here. And can you all see my screen share?
Yes, you can see it.
Start it here.
They find a way to meet the unbearable, the unimaginable, in remarkable ways, actually. This isn't a fairy tale or some happy ending story, you know. It's a transformation of tragedy. And they discover this discovery happens regularly in people, you know. They find something that allows them to be larger than the small separate self they've taken themselves to be. Now you might say too late. And I would agree, it's too late. Too late to do that work then. But here's the thing. If that possibility for transformation exists at the time of dying, then it exists now. And we don't have to wait until the time of our dying to learn the lessons it has to teach. So a few years ago, several now, as a way of honoring, actually, the lessons that I learned from being with people at the bedside, we developed these 5 invitations, and they were really guides for how to take care of folks as they were dying. And they've served me well for many years now. But it turns out that they have a relevance for the rest of us in living a meaningful and useful life. You know, an invitation is a request, actually. If I invite you to my house or to my wedding, it's a request for you to show up. And these invitations are a request for you to show up for your life. Yeah. So the first invitation is, don't wait. Don't wait. Waiting is full of expectation. Waiting for the next moment to arrive, we miss this one. Dying folks taught me that. Don't wait. I was washing the back of one of our patients one day, like this, in the hospital in our palliative care unit. And as I was washing his back, he turned over his shoulder to me and he said, "I never thought it was going to be like this." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Dying." And I said, "Well, what did you think it would be like?" And he said, "I never thought about it." And you see, in that moment, that realization was a greater cause of suffering for Joe than his terminal lung cancer. He'd really been caught by surprise by dying. We can run, but we cannot hide. There's a great old Babylonian myth, some of you know it, about a merchant and a servant in Baghdad. And the merchant sends the servant to the marketplace to buy some supplies. And the servant goes to the marketplace, and while he's in the marketplace, someone bumps into him, and he turns and he looks, and he sees that it's death. And he becomes terrified, and he runs home back to the merchant's house. And he said, he explains what happened. I was in the marketplace, and I ran into this woman, and I turned, and there she was, death, and she made this threatening gesture at me. "Please give me your horse, and I will ride away from this city and escape my fate. I will ride to Samara, where death cannot find me." And so he gives them the horse, and the man rides off in a fury. And a little while later, the merchant goes to the market, and there he also encounters death. And he says, "Hey, why'd you scare my servant like that? Why'd you make that threatening gesture at him?" And Death said, "No, that wasn't a threatening gesture. That was a look of surprise. I was surprised to see him here in Baghdad this morning when I knew that we had an appointment in Samara tonight." Don't wait. Embracing the truth that all things inevitably must end encourages us not to wait in order to begin living our lives in a way that's meaningful and useful, in a manner that's deeply engaged. We stop wasting our time on meaningless activities. And we understand that death is always with us, integral to life itself. And everything is constantly changing. Nothing is permanent. And this idea can both frighten us and inspire us. Mostly we imagine death will come later. Later. Like later. And that gives us this comfortable distance, right? Later. We don't have to worry about it now. But constant change is not later. Constant change is now. George Harrison, he was right when he said, all things must pass. Everything's coming and going all the time. That's the nature of things. You know, I love to lie in bed in the morning. I really like it. I like the comforters, and I like the cool breeze coming over me, and it's just great, you know? Isn't it the best? I'm not very good at getting up for meditation, actually. I like that comfortable, beautiful moment where everything is perfect, you know, and you're there, and it's just great. And then you have to pee, yeah? So you get up, you know, and you go to the toilet, and you come back, and you get in bed, and you try and recreate all the conditions to have it be just right again, but it never works, right? It's never the same again, yeah? Conditions are always changing, yeah. Intellectually, we understand, of course, that our mother's treasured vase will one day fall from the shelf, that our car will break down, that the people we love will die. We understand that intellectually. Our work is to let that drop down. Let that drop down and nestle itself in our hearts. Impermanence isn't the cause of suffering. We actually rely on change. I mean, that cold you have today, it won't last forever. And that really boring dinner party that you're going to go to on Saturday night, it will end. Yeah. And, you know, even trees burn so that new ones can grow. Evil dictatorships will crumble. Presidential terms end. Without impermanence, life couldn't exist, you know? Without impermanence, your son wouldn't take his first steps. Your daughter wouldn't grow up to be a scientist. You know, I'm off to Japan next week, actually. And there, the cherry blossoms will be, you know, covering the hillsides. You know? And there's this little cabin I teach up in Idaho where I stay, and there are these little tiny blue flax flowers that last a single day. Single day. Now tell me, why are those cherry blossoms, why are those flax flowers so much more beautiful than plastic flowers? Yeah? I mean, isn't it the, you know, fragility, the precariousness of those cherry blossoms, of those flax flowers, of the morning light, of a crest of a wave that invites us into wonder and gratitude and beauty? There's this most exquisite Japanese term that I like a lot. It's called mono no no ware. And it expresses this aesthetic sensibility, really. And it's challenging to translate this. It sometimes is translated as a gentle sadness. But maybe more accurately, it could be described as a kind of being deeply moved by the transience of life, by the finite nature of things. It doesn't deny loss, and it doesn't, you know, bypass grief. It reminds us that the beauty of things, it reminds us of the beauty of things and our appreciation of that. It kind of heightens our awareness of the beauty and transience of our relationships, for example. I think when we embrace impermanence, a certain grace enters our lives. I think that we're free to savor life then, to touch it, to taste it, all of it, you know, the beauty and the horror. So the heart of this invitation, really, it's reminding us that the past and the future, they're just stories. And the only place we can really live is here and now. And so when we're looking through our concepts and through our constructions, we lose a kind of contact with the immediacy of life. You know, if we learn to let go into uncertainty, to recognize and trust that our basic nature and that of the world is not fundamentally different, then the fact that things are not stable and fixed, this becomes a liberating opportunity rather than a threat. What becomes undeniable when you're sitting with people who are dying is the fragility and impermanence. They're in the very nature of life. It's always coming together and falling apart. And not just at the time of death. And it's possible to hold it all in love and compassion. Okay, that's the first one. Second invitation is welcome everything. Push away nothing.
Thank you so much, Susan.
You're welcome.
And I'm sorry to everyone for that snafu. Of course, it worked perfectly during rehearsal and a half hour ago. I just don't know why it got so slowed down. So we'll try to solve that for next time.
This is a conversation I would have, and Brian knows this, before every single event I ever did. I would say, I acknowledge that dying is really difficult, but standing up in front of a group of people and trying to play an audio or a video for them for an educational event, it is right up there with that difficulty. So thanks, Ryan. We're all good now.
Very good. So now we're going to move on to a short meditation that we will have together in community, Satsan. And I hope you're sitting comfortably and you can close your eyes. We'll sit for about 5 minutes. And then we will move into the questions on this invitation and then our breakout rooms. So you're going to hear 3 bells at the beginning and 3 bells at the end of 5 minutes. And I hope you will just enjoy having this time for reflection. So welcome back, everybody. And we're getting close to our breakout groups where you can share and listen about what this first invitation means to you and to others in your group. And this really is the heart and soul of the study group together, so that you have a chance to make this invitation be very relevant and alive for you. So I wanted to take a moment and just share my screen. And Susan's going to put in the chat our 5 questions. This is from the study guide that Frank actually designed. And these are the 5 questions. So these are the ones, and hopefully you can pick 1 or 2 of these questions that really resonate with you to talk about. What are you waiting to say, do, or be in your life? What is a change that you are grateful for? How did it open the door to new possibility? How can you be open to outcome without being attached to a specific result? What have been the obstacles to forgiveness in your life? And how has contact with the precariousness of life helped you to appreciate its preciousness? So we're going to put that in the chat as both a Word document and just as text in just a moment. In the meantime, we're going to break down into 17, 16, or 17 groups. So there'll be 3 or 4, mostly 4, 3 or 4 or so people in a group, and you'll have about 22, 23 minutes to talk. If you just want to start off by saying your name and where you're from, and then you can begin sharing on the first question. You don't have to talk about the same questions. You can talk about whichever one moves you. So each person, if there's 4 people in a group, each person will have about 5 or 6 minutes. And it really is helpful. I suggest you have a timekeeper. Just a couple guidelines for the group to avoid crosstalk. So there's no commenting on what other people are sharing, when they're sharing, no interrupting, practicing confidentiality and respectful, open-hearted listening, and making sure everybody gets a chance to speak. Being sensitive to talking too long or too short. So we're now going to break into groups. Don't forget to click on the join button, and hopefully you'll have your camera and mic on. I'll send you messages every 5 minutes or so. If you don't want to join a group, you don't have to. You'll be in this main room, and I probably will put you back into the waiting room until the breakout groups are over. If there's something that dawns on you, inspires you, touches you, moves you during the breakout groups, and you want to share them with a larger group, please feel free. We'll have a few minutes for that as well. So with that, I'm going to make the breakout groups, and I'm gonna do 16 of them. Okay, well, welcome back to folks. So sorry we were having some more technical problems where some people were getting kicked out of the rooms.
Yeah.
And I'm very sorry about that.
Yeah, I don't know that there's, yeah, that's an odd thing with these rooms because it's, sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, but
You'll see in the chat that we have the questions in the chat.
Can you please repost them? Because mine is all blank. There it is. Sorry.
Then we also have attached a Word document with the questions as well, if you want to download that for your reference.
You can resend that, Rye, and I'll put that up. You have to resend that.
Okay, I'm going to resend that in a moment. I'm wondering if anybody wants to share anything that is top of mind from your breakout groups. I hope that you got to have some meaningful conversation. And if you feel so moved, we would love to hear an awareness or inspiration, a realization. You can use the Zoom raise hand feature if you would like to.
That's under reactions. You can just open that up, and then underneath all of those emojis, it will say raise hand. And if anybody wants to put a reflection up in the chat, thank you, Barbara. Okay, Barbara and then Julie. Let me see. Let me find you, Barbara. I'm going to move you down here with Rye. There you go. Oops.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, wow.
Hello.
Thank you. I want to thank the lady that was in the room with me, because I realized I said, you are further along than I am. That's the best way to say it. I said, you must have done a lot of work in this area. She said, yes, it is work. So I appreciated her strengths.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Julie, would you like to share?
I would. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge my two roommates. They tolerated me talking a little much, and that I love these questions. I think the questions are a very very solid way to examine, our coming of age into death acceptance. And I personally was transformed by a death in very significant ways, ways that changed my life purpose, and have continued to build in that direction. And so I'm thankful for that. I mean, it's hard to be thankful for a death, but it was going to happen anyway. And the way that it happened and the way I responded to it have really been life-changing for me in wonderful ways. I am now an end-of-life facilitator, an end-of-life preparedness facilitator. I'm sure many of you know Jane Duncan Rogers, Before I Go Solutions, and I was certified in her system this past year, and I'm now training my first group of people to get all their ducks in a row. And it feels very, very rewarding to know that they're working on those details and making choices and so forth. So I don't work directly in support of the dying, but I feel that my work is, I'm an author, and I've published books that help people to consciously prepare themselves and their loved ones for that event. And I feel very strongly about that. So thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate it. And I hope everybody sees we have the Word document that is downloadable in the chat, as well as the questions themselves inserted into the chat. So you can feel free to download, to copy and paste, to save the chat for that, etc. So I appreciate the comments. Does anybody else want to share before we move into our close for today? So in closing, I wanted to say that, say one of Frank's quotes. Don't wait is an encouragement to step fully into life. Don't miss this moment waiting for the next to arrive. Don't wait to act on what is most important. Don't get stuck in the hope for a better past or future. Be present. Death is not waiting for us at the end of a long road. Death is always with us in the marrow of every passing moment. She is the secret teacher hiding in plain sight, helping us to discover what matters most. So with that, as we get ready to close, I just want to say we'll be meeting in 2 weeks. I believe that is March 3rd for the second invitation, 2 weeks from today. And that second invitation are chapters 5, 6, and 7, beginning on page 73 in the book. You may wish to register for the session if you haven't already. Susan's going to put the URL in if you're interested in donating to the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation for all the great work that they do. And with that, I wanted to end with a wonderful poem by John O'Donohue called Blessing for a New Beginning. In out of the way places of the heart, where your thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you were ready to emerge. For a long time, it has watched your desire, feeling the emptiness growing inside you, noticing how you willed yourself on, still unable to leave what you had outgrown. It watched you play with the seduction of safety and the gray promises that sameness whispered, heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent, wondered, would you always live like this? Then the delight when your courage kindled and out you stepped onto new ground, your eyes young again with energy and dream, a path of plenitude opening before you. Though your destination is not yet clear, you can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning. This is at one with your life's desire. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease in risk. Soon you will be home in a new rhythm. For your soul senses the world that awaits you. So with that, I want to thank you all for being here and thank Susan Barber, the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation, Frank Ostaseski, and the Meta Institute for being here. I hope to see you next time in 2 weeks, and you can feel free to unmute yourself.
Right,
And
before folks do
share
that,
for
before people unmute, I just want to say, if you have not registered for the other sessions and you would like to join for those, I would encourage you to do that soon. We want to make sure that people that want to be in all 5 sessions can actually do that. And if you're having any issue with that, all of the emails you've received about this has my email on there. So if you go to sign up in the next day or two and it's already full, just let me know, because I want to make sure that people that came this first time have the opportunity to come for the whole 5 sessions. Okay, thank you. And
yes, and feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to stay a few minutes and talk, give feedback. We're sorry about the technical problems and hope to have that smoother next time. So with that, many thanks to each of you for being there. And I hope the Don't Wait invitation resonates with you over the next 2 weeks.
Thank you.
before people start talking, I'm just going to